I would say that nearly every major decision I ever made in my life, I made right here. My dad and two of his friends from Cleveland came up one summer to paddle all through this area, and they really fell in love with this part of the country. The fishing and the rocks and everything about it they loved. In 1910 was when they first came up here. They found an island they particularly liked, and they put their tents there, and they camped on that island all that summer. I was born in 1931. By then, my dad had built a little cottage up in the point over here. And this is the same cottage that he built. Summers, this is where I grew up. This is, in my mind, where you're supposed to be, I suppose, right here. It is still my roots in this place. As little kids, we just spent hours, half days, trying to catch frogs and chasing snakes and all the things that little kids do, you know. You can't drive here. You can't walk here. You can only go across all of this water that you see all around you. You've got beautiful sun and wind and clean air and rocks. It's all special. Sailing materialized when I got into my young teens and so forth. And people in this area would get together every Wednesday and every Saturday, and they'd have races right out in this big bay that you see over here. But I never did very well. Other people would every now and then get a first or second place. I'd be lucky if I ever got a third even. And that bothered me. Why am I not able to do this? And that's what led to getting the idea that if I could get this boat to fly on hydrofoils, it'd go really fast. I'd drop away all the wave drag and just zoom, and then I could beat all these guys sailing. And that's what started my venture for decades now to try to make a sailboat that would fly on hydrofoils. 1969, I first built this boat simply by putting it on my shop floor and shaping it by hand and looking at it. So that's great. Each time I tried something, I was certain it was going to work, and then it wouldn't work. And instead of getting discouraged, you'd say, oh, well, now I figured out how to make that work now. So then you go on to another iteration and make that work. To try to connect my life over many years to my life here, you have to acknowledge that that was the only way I knew. I believe in the process. I think that you can start with an idea that's difficult to work with and resolve the problems and turn it into reality if you stick at it. I grew up tinkering in that little building, trying to make things. I had to figure out what it was I was going to make, had to figure out how to do it. I did what I'd been brought up to do.
October 2nd, 1997. That was when I was hiking the Inca Trail and I met Bill. My brother and I had been on this trail for, I guess, 4 days, and there's different mile points, and so there was like maybe mile 97 and maybe mile 102 or something like that, and we had paid a guy to drop us off at mile 102, and I think he decided to save a bit of money and ended up dropping us off at like mile 97. So when we got there and we were talking to other people, we realized that we were, kind of 5 or 8 miles longer walking than we anticipated on. But there was a point, and I remember this very clearly, we were walking on the trail and we saw a guy sitting on the side of the trail. I think I introduced myself as the engineer from Toronto, and you responded by saying that you're an engineer from Cleveland.
You had that tourist look on your face too.
That's true.
And we just started talking.
You had said that you were always on the lookout for good people. I think your exact words were, a good company is always on the lookout for good people.
So that's where we started.
loving water my whole life and growing up in and around it, sailing and boating, and we'd literally spend our entire days as kids swimming in the water. And then seeing the contrast of lakes that are just untouched and pristine, comparing that with lakes that are a little more degraded, it was hugely motivational for me. I decided to go more into environmental engineering. Water is too valuable to waste, and so at one point in time we humans thought that water was the receiving end of our trash cycle. So water was just used to flush our trash and our undesirables away. Now there's frankly too many of us wanting to do that and not enough water to do that with. We need to keep areas like this prevented from being exposed to the receiving end of the trash cycle. So we got to rethink that.
I realized that if we could recycle the water, we wouldn't be polluting the environment with our sewage if we could reuse our water.
Bill came up to me one day and said, would I like to be a part of this? Would I like to go with him and start talking to politicians about this problem? We've met with countless politicians, and we've spoken at conferences, and we've published. We've worked with consulting engineering firms. We have done a lot of work on this, and to this day we continue to be involved. And that brought us back here every summer for about 4 or 5 years. And it was up here doing these projects that we did start talking a lot about what you saw in the water industry and what I saw. And what I saw was that wastewater treatment was becoming drinking water treatment, and conventional drinking water treatment was becoming wastewater treatment.
They're all the same technology.
It's all the same. It's the same technology, and it's been very separated. They've got different associations and different companies that service these different markets. There's the wastewater folks and the drinking water folks. From my perspective, seeing that they were coming closer and closer together, that ultimately all forms of wastewater treatment are becoming drinking water treatment. First and foremost, if you could prevent wastewater by just treating it to very, very high standards, the technology can do it, the price point is there. Then the question is, why put it back in the environment? Just use it over again. So I think that there's going to be a network of decentralized water recycling systems. So whether you're a home or a cottage or a business, you would take whatever water you've used and then you would purify it right back up to the standards that you would need to use it for everything. We asked, what can we do to make the world a better place? And Bill said, we need to recycle water, and it has to be done at the residential basis. People need more water recycling options. In 2008, the new Tangent was formed with a very simple vision, was to develop an appliance that could capture all the water from a home, purify it to the safest, cleanest standards, and pump the water back to the home for immediate use.
This is an industry that needs to change. We've got to quit doing massive pumping and treatment systems for cities and get it closer to the user. The closer we can get to the user, both in providing water and treating sewage, the better off the whole system's going to work. Core to what I was trying to achieve with the new Tangent Company was to put this in the home. As people are creating pollution, they clean it right back up. Teach them about what they need and solve their problem. That's what we needed with water recycling. So it fit perfectly with the background that I had of how to go about it.
We envision 100% water recycling. The only way we're going to get there is using the technology that we've developed. And we're now strongly positioned to be leaders in water recycling.
The new Tangent Company certainly evolved from sailboats, but in the larger sense, we're still off on a tangent. We're still trying to do things that are different.
One trait you and I both share is we don't like doing something the same way that everyone else does. Like we're always looking for a different way of looking at the world, a different way of doing something, inventing something. And I suppose if you're going round and round in a circle, a tangent is breaking free of that and getting out of the norm, getting out of the routine. And in that sort of interpretation, yeah, that's exactly what we do.
We will always be reaching like
Yeah.
that. It's in our corporate culture now.
Today, yeah. Draw people of that mindset, create a system where people are allowed to try things differently and don't be punished for failure.
We're trying to do something that hasn't been done before. That caters to what I'd like this company to be. Dreamers who are trying to do things different and better.
The world needs more water recycling options. Take what water you have and use it as often as you need to meet your water demands. People need more options. Simply put, that's it. We could completely transform how people think of water.